In today's episode of the Let's Talk Psychology podcast, we're going to talk about a specific kind of silence. It's the silence of a phone that doesn't ring. It's the silence of a Friday night spent scrolling through feeds of other people living their lives. And specifically, we're going to talk about why this silence seems to haunt a very specific demographic, the former gifted child. The topic is why smart kids end up lonely and struggle as adults. Why is it that so many smart kids grow up feeling stuck, disconnected, and completely alone? If you look at the trajectory of their lives on paper, it doesn't make sense. These were the kids who were supposed to be ahead of everyone else. They were the ones who learned to read early. They were the ones praised by teachers, rewarded with gold stars, placed in advanced classes, and told over and over again that they were going far. They were sold a promise: you are special, you are capable, the world is yours. And yet, somewhere along the way, that promise turned into pressure, and that praise became a prison. Now, fast forward 20 years, a lot of those same kids, the ones who once stood out, are struggling. They can't find motivation. They feel socially behind. They struggle to start things, follow through on projects, or connect deeply with other human beings. And worst of all, they can't explain why. Because on the outside, they're still sharp. They're still capable. They can analyze a problem in seconds. But inside, there is this constant gnawing sense of isolation, like life is a movie happening to other people, and they are stuck behind glass, just watching it go by. And it turns out there is a psychological reason for this. It starts with identity. Smart kids often build their entire sense of self around being smart. It's their currency. It's how they get love. It's how they get attention. When you're young, being smart allows you to live life on easy mode. You don't need to study as hard as everyone else. You pick things up quickly. You get the A without breaking a sweat. But here is the hidden cost. When you get praised for being smart, what people are usually praising is effortless success. You learn to internalize a very dangerous idea. If I'm smart, things should be easy for me. If I have to try hard, it means I'm not actually smart. And that belief, that is the seed of the struggle. Because eventually you grow up, and eventually life gets hard. Relationships get complex. Careers require grinding, boring work. The moment something isn't easy, when you struggle, when you fail, when you don't understand something immediately, it doesn't feel like a normal challenge. It feels like a threat to your existence. You ask yourself, if I'm supposed to be the smart one, why am I struggling? So instead of leaning into the difficulty, the smart kid starts avoiding it. You stop raising your hand. You stop trying new hobbies where you might look foolish. You stick to familiar territory. You protect your image and your identity of the perfect smart kid instead of risking the messiness of growth. And that is the trap. While everyone else is out there experimenting, trying, failing, looking stupid, and growing, you are locked inside a shrinking comfort zone. And the longer that goes on, the harder it becomes to leave. So that explains the career stagnation. But what about the loneliness? Why do smart kids struggle to connect? Well, when you stop growing, you stop connecting. Think about how human connection actually works. Connection comes from shared vulnerability. It comes from shared struggle. It comes from being on a team, going through an awkward phase together, or working hard toward a goal where the outcome is uncertain. If you're busy protecting your ego, if you're refusing to do things you aren't immediately good at, you are opting out of the very activities where bonding happens. You don't join the club because you're afraid you'll be bad at it. You don't try the sport because you look clumsy. You avoid group projects because other people frustrate you. Without realizing it, you start stepping out of the flow of social life. But you're human. You still crave connection. So what do? You lean on the only tool you trust, your intelligence. You try to think your way through relationships. You try to analyze people instead of relating to them. You observe. You run simulations in your head. If I say X, they will say Y. This leads to something psychologists call cognitive empathy. You can understand logically what others are feeling, but you don't allow yourself to emotionally engage with them. You are performing social interaction rather than inhabiting it. And let me tell you, that is exhausting. You might seem charismatic on the surface, you can hold a conversation, but underneath you are calculating, you're working overtime, and because you're performing, you never feel truly seen. You leave a party feeling drained, not energized, because you were never really there, you were just managing the interaction. And this is where the loneliness deepens. And this next part might be hard to hear, but it's important. When the emotional pain of disconnection becomes too sharp, the ego steps in to protect you. It forms a shield, and that shield is made of arrogance. You start to tell yourself a story to cope with the isolation. You tell yourself, I'm just different from other people. I don't relate because they aren't on my level. I'm too deep for surface-level friendships. Most people are boring. This is called defensive arrogance. Instead of admitting that you are lonely and that you lack the skills to connect, you convince yourself that you are superior to everyone else. It hurts less to feel superior than it does to feel left out. It's a defense mechanism, but it is one of the most isolating patterns you can fall into. It creates a wall between you and the rest of humanity. And the tragedy is even when you want connection, that wall stops you, because connection requires humility. It requires you to be just another person in the room. It requires you to be average, to be silly, to be vulnerable. And your ego, which has been fed on a diet of being special since you were 5 years old, will not let you do that. So you're stuck, you're lonely, and you're smart. So you try to solve the problem the way you solve everything else, with logic. You try to intellectualize your feelings. You read self-help books. You analyze your childhood. You listen to podcasts like this one. You write out arguments to convince yourself you're fine. But here is the hard truth. Intelligence was not designed to fix emotional pain. Your brain is a tool for solving external problems, fixing a car, writing code, doing math. It is not a tool for self-worth. When you try to use logic to feel okay inside, you enter a loop. You ask, am I enough? And your brain looks for data. It looks at your bank account, your resume, your lack of friends, and it says, no data found. That question, am I enough, cannot be answered intellectually. It can only be answered emotionally. And for smart kids, emotional growth is often the one thing that got left behind. You grew your IQ, but you neglected your EQ. So how do we fix this? How do we break the curse? The first step, and this is non-negotiable, is that you have to stop identifying as the smart kid. You have to let that identity die. Not because being intelligent is bad, but because basing your self-worth on it is toxic. When your value is tied to how easily you succeed, you will always choose safety over growth. You have to build a new identity, not around being smart, but around being willing. Willing to be a beginner, willing to be bad at things, willing to look stupid. You have to stop asking, what will make me look intelligent, and start asking, what will help me move forward. You have to stop protecting your pride and start embracing discomfort. This means showing up to social situations not to perform, but to participate. It means catching yourself when you feel that defensive arrogance rising up, that voice that says these people are boring, and choosing curiosity instead. And yeah, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be uncomfortable. It feels like a step backward to admit you don't know what you're doing. But it's not a step backward. It is the first real step towards becoming whole. The old identity told you that your value came from being special. The new one reminds you that your value comes from being human. And being human means you are allowed to be uncertain. You are allowed to grow slowly. You are allowed to feel lost. But the only way forward is to take action anyway. Not perfect action, not clever action, just honest, imperfect, human steps forward. So, if you are someone who feels stuck or numb or chronically disconnected, if you've spent your whole life trying to be the smartest person in the room, I want you to try something different this week. Try being the person who doesn't know. Try being the person who asks for help. Try being the person who admits they're lonely. Step down from the pedestal and join the rest of us here on the ground. It's messy down here, and it's chaotic, but it's where the connection is, and I promise you, it's the only place where you will finally feel at home. If any part of this resonated with you, if you felt that click of recognition, leave a comment or share this with someone who needs it. Chances are you're not the only one feeling this way. Thanks for listening to the Let's Talk Psychology podcast. Take care of your mind, and I'll see you in the next episode.